Good morning, afternoon, evening, YouTubers, wherever you are out there across the country, around the world. I'm going to be doing a few things here. I want to get closed captioning going so that people can read the text of what I'm saying, and also translation into other languages. I've been able to take advantage of a video made in Germany with captioning that I can read. The rocket stove one, if you go to my trench rocket stove, Dakota Firehole rocket stove section on my How to Get Out of Babylon YouTube channel. That was a really good video, and had there not been captioning, I could see what he was doing, but I wouldn't have been able to understand what he was saying, and it was very good. So that's a capability that's there, and I want to take advantage of that. I want to do more videoing. I've got a tripod coming. I've got my phone I can use. I need to clear the videos off of it so I can use it. But I want to get a lot more ideas out there, reinforcement of what I'm trying to get across. There is more and more coming at me from a lot of different directions, reinforcement of what I'm trying to say. So, and one thing that I want to touch on here is a book that I read some time back. I've read it a couple times. We read it out loud to our family. It's a, whatever you want to call it, what I would term a post-Toastie book, called Lights Out by David Crawford. I just found out, and I'll put the link below, hopefully. I'm getting behind on that, I know. I apologize. I've had questions on some of the links I've mentioned, and limited amount of time, so I apologize on that. But Lights Out by David Crawford, you can just go to look it up online. I found it just right off the bat. Lights Out. It was originally titled, or the author, he used to call himself half-assed, but David Crawford, you can find the book online, you can buy it online, Amazon, of course. But I just, for quite a while, it had been pulled off internet. You weren't supposed to post it or anything because he's going to make it became a book, and so he pulled it offline. It's supposed to be, I just saw today, a trilogy movie made out of it. I knew he'd gotten a Hollywood interest in it, a Hollywood contract, supposedly, but trilogy, there'd be 3 movies made out of it. Wow, that would be a really very detailed, very intense situation. So, and I think it's definitely worthy of that. I'm recommending this book because of several things. One is that it's set in a suburb in America, San Antonio, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and one of them Texas towns. But it's one of the most practical, or really the most overall extremely practical book I've read, and I'm going to go into it because I'm going to be emphasizing the idea of protecting yourself by protecting as large an area around yourself as possible. So, with that being said, the link I found, in case I don't get it down below right away, survival-training.info, articles 45/lightsout-current.pdf. There it is. Just look up Lights Out by David Crawford. It should pull that link up real easy. It's a PDF file. You can download it. You can read it. 611 pages. Very practical. It talks about night vision, night sights on weapons. He coined the term MZBs, mutant zombie bikers, the hordes of invaders out there, bad people. How to deal with that situation, and whether you want to be in a survivalist situation or if you want to be in a community of people that you know and you can trust and that actually have a working brain. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that, but what kind of a situation you want to be in. There's a choice presented to these 2 men. The main character is Mark Turner, also known as AKA Karate Man, because he was a karate guy, and his buddy Jim. So there's a third character, one of the main characters, Gunny, gunnery sergeant, old Marine, retired Marine gunnery sergeant, who they brought into their community. So I'm going to read a passage here because this encapsulates the idea of needing to get out beyond your own little area. So many people, leaders, alleged leaders, supposed leaders, I think many of them doing more damage than good by their quote-unquote leadership or lack thereof, lack of thinking, lack of vision. Going to be doing more harm than good to a lot of people in this country. And I want to preface it too by saying that at the time I first read this book, I was reading another book concurrently with it called Skystone. Don't remember the author. It was about Merlin, Sword in the Stone, the whole 9 yards, set in Britain as the Roman Empire was deteriorating and Britain was being invaded by the Celts, and the fact that they needed to, or being invaded by Viking hordes or whatever it was, I don't know. So they both of these books, at the same time as I was reading them, at the same time, the same theme came out, and I thought it was very significant. The idea that they realized that they had to go outside of their own little community and start patrolling outside to see who was watching, what other groups were out there operating that might be harmful to their own area. You know, you can have the little farmhouse, the little farmstead, whatever, and we've only got, I just get tired of saying this, but we've only got 5 people per square mile in my area. Well, some areas like in Wyoming and whatever, I mean, they may end up, looks like they're going to be resettling a lot of Syrians here. Thanks to the UN, they're going to choose the people that come in, yeah. And so some of those areas that are very low population have boasted a very low population of 5 people per square mile or 40 people per square mile may end up with being quite outnumbered by other people who may not have their best interests at heart. So that's kind of ironic, but that's going to happen, whether it's a gradual resettling of refugees from another Muslim country or just invading hordes as they are depicted here of MZBs. You need a lot of people to protect your little area. So that being said, I'm going to read this passage here. It's not too long. The scenario here is that the community has been attacked, and I'm just going to read this. So this is Mark Turner and Gunny talking. Ever since those idiots attacked Ralph's house, something has been bothering me. I couldn't figure it out until after we were attacked last night, though. The attackers watched us before they attacked. They had plans. Fortunately, they didn't work, but they weren't just random attacks. None of our defenses are really geared toward a planned, well-orchestrated, and multi-pronged attack. Have you thought about that? Yep. I thought we'd have more time before we had to worry about it, Gunny said. You mean you knew something like this could happen? Of course. If it hadn't have happened sooner or later, I'd have been surprised. Then why haven't you trained us for it? Mark demanded. Because everyone has to learn to walk before they can run, Gunny explained, and I didn't think it would happen this fast. So what are we going to do about it now? We've got to start patrolling outside the subdivision to see if anyone is watching us. I see. Any ideas about how we're going to go about that? I got plenty of ideas, but we have to figure out how we can cover all the posts if we pull the best guys off guard duty, which are the ones I want out on the patrols, he explained. The 2 men discussed various options, however, each one had a downside. The best option they could come up with was to eliminate one of the shifts and go to 3 8-hour shifts. Gunny didn't like keeping guys on normally boring guard duty for that long, but it seemed to have the least negatives. Perhaps if they got more men to sign up for guard duty, they could go back to 4 shifts. Mark had another question for Gunny, but he wasn't sure that he really wanted the answer. But he decided that not knowing was worse than the truth. What do you think is the worst case scenario that we might have to defend ourselves against? A division of Marines with artillery and air support, Gunny said, looking Mark right in the eye. I'm serious, Mark said, as if he was fussing at his son. So am I, Gunny shot back. If the government gets any more wacko, they may try to force us into shelter camps with the military. What could we do? Against that kind of firepower? Surrender or die? Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. Let me rephrase my question. What is the worst case that we could defend ourselves against successfully? I would say 300 or 400 MZBs with some light automatic weapons. Any more than that we might be able to repel, but the cost in lives wouldn't be worth it. How could we defend against so many? We have less than 100 guards, Mark asked. The defender's advantage is at least 3 to 1. In some cases it can be 7 or 8 to 1. I see. So how many would we lose against 300? If and we knew they was coming, maybe only a dozen or so. If and they hit us by surprise, it could be 50 to 100 or more. It depends on how many casualties they're willing to take. And you think 50 to 100 would be worth it? Mark asked in disbelief. If and it saved everyone else and our houses and gardens? Yes. Mark was quiet for several minutes, thinking about what Gunny had said. He couldn't disagree with the old man. They had a place that they could live on for quite a while if they had to, and it would be worth it to him to trade his life so that his kids could have a future. He wondered how they could keep the worst from happening, and asked, "We need to get everyone trained, including women and older kids, and have at least some kind of weapon for each one of them. Then we have to make Silver Hills as uninviting as possible." How are we going to do that? I don't know, Karate Man, but the way things are going to hell in a handbasket, we better figure it out pretty quick. So, the part we better figure it out pretty quick, too much writing and too much thinking and too much teaching and too much videoing and too much quote-unquote leadership across this country is drastically short-sighted and drastically small-minded. We're going to be faced with this. We better figure it out pretty quick, as in after-the-fact type of thing. Like say a 300 or 400 horde of fairly well-armed, fairly well-organized people sitting over the hill from where you think you're safe, and you have your 40 or so people in your county or your area, your square mile, and you're going about your daily routine of gardening and building and doing whatever it is you need to do to stay alive, hauling water or whatever, and being unaware of that is going to be fatal, in that situation, given that type of scenario. And I do believe that scenario is going to happen. I made a comment that a lot of what I'm seeing is really coming at me from many different directions, and it's all confirming that a poem, The Garden, and There Is No Death. I'm going to comment on that book again, read a little bit from it. The near-death experience woman, supposedly saw the future and saw the World Trade Center, da-da-da-da-da. But the chapter, a very brief chapter, I See the Future, everything she said there was exactly what I see happening. That there's only going to be 20 or 30 safe places around the country, which she called cities of light, and that they would go to another place, most of them in the west, and only 3 or 4 in the east, and that they would go to another place, singular. I mentioned that before, but there's only one place to go. That's the U.S. Interior Highlands. Look it up on Wikipedia. That is the name for this region. It's highlands. The Ozark Plateau is the heart of that area, and it's a large enough region to sustain about 50 million people. So if your plan A goes to hell and your plan B goes to hell and plan C goes to hell, head this way, from east or from the west or from the north or from the south. It's 500 miles to the east coast, 500 miles to the Canadian border, 500 miles to Mexico, and 500 miles to the western border of the U.S. Craton, and that is the Continental Divide. So outside of that area, not a whole lot of west of the Continental Divide. We'll go into that some other time. I need to figure out how to do screenshots, how to show what I don't even know. I just don't know what I'm doing, or in the fact that I have been given a lot of information. But I want to do a study on that. The Craton is the western edge of it, is the Continental Divide. The eastern edge is the Appalachians. It is the heart of the North American tectonic plate. It is over twice as thick as the rest of the Earth's crust, and west of the Continental Divide is volcanoes, unsafe, thin crust, not stable, not safe, not anything. May very well be underwater, a large part of it at some point in the future. So anyway, I'm going to call that one good. And this is Jerry Diamond. If you are listening to this, you are the remnant.